Hello, my name is Dr. Craig Seal and I'm with California State University, San Bernardino. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to go ahead and present to the 4th International HR Conference with our focus here on change. And what I'm going to present is a particular concept that my colleagues and I have been working on called personal interpersonal capacity. Now initially we developed this to really focus on student development needs, but in looking at the challenge for the conference and organizational change, we feel this model actually has particularly value to be able to help organizations in dealing with potential resistance to change. And so before I go too far in to help provide some context, I wanted to give a little quote from Aristotle. And so, those who possess the rare skill to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, and the right purpose is at an advantage in any domain in life. What Aristotle is really talking about is the ability to use emotion, or potentially be used by emotion, is going to allow you to either have a successful or potentially an unsuccessful outcome. And that's sort of the underpinning for this whole concept of emotional intelligence, or EI, of which personal interpersonal capacity emerges, particularly on, and EI is split into different paradigms, but the emotional social competency, the one that really looks at knowledge, skills, and aptitudes in managing emotions that individuals have. And so when we look at personal interpersonal capacity, what we're really talking about is what's the potential that individuals have to basically regulate emotional information and then their subsequent behaviors after. Our assumption is those who are more self-aware, aware of others, have built strong relationships, are better positioned to be able to foster positive social changes. And so the idea when we talk about organizational change is we're talking about resistance. And so part of the dilemma for managers is how do you break through that resistance? And our theory, our idea, is that this concept of personal interpersonal capacity, particularly the 4 factors involved, can help you to target where potential change efforts fail and where managers may need to develop some of their knowledge and skills. Now, the model itself is built on 4 primary factors. The first factor is self-awareness. And this is the concept of how well do you really know yourself? Do you know your strengths? Do you know your weaknesses? Do you know your emotions? Do you know the causes of your emotions? Are you able to trace that back? Some individuals are highly self-aware, others not so much. And when you go into a situation, particularly a change initiative, and where there's a lot of potential anxiety, being aware of what you're bringing to the table, how well you're able to manage that, is going to be one of the key components. The second factor we deal with is this idea of consideration of others. And this is the concept of, are you actually empathetic? Do you actually value the perspective of the individuals that you're working with? Any change effort is going to likely have winners and losers. And so are you compassionate? Are you sensitive to the needs of those players? And what are the risk factors for them going into this situation? Because that could allow you to help to mitigate some of those problems. The third factor we deal with is this idea of connection to others, the relationships themselves. How well have you built relationships? Are you comfortable talking to your teammates, to your boss, to your staff, your employees? And what's the level of trust, intimacy in those relationships? Are you cautious? Are you guarded? Are there conflicts? Or are you really truly able to have open, meaningful conversations with each other? And the final factor we talk about is this influence orientation concept. And this is the idea of leadership. Are you able to and willing to take on leadership roles and those subsequent responsibilities and hold yourself accountable? And at the same time, in those positions of authority, are you able to move the team, the department, the division, or the organization forward and have everybody come along with you? And so those are the different factors that we look at in terms of the model. Now, part of the issue with our model in particular is the idea of how these 4 factors interrelate. And this leads particularly to the concept of our outcomes, which is what we're looking for, is increased meaningful communication and reduced dysfunctional conflict, which are major contributors to success or failure of change initiatives. And so the driver's the influence. So who's in charge? Who's taking ownership for this? And are they able to push people forward? But having a driver by itself without the rest of the models is going to create potential resistance factors. And so you have potential a change agent who's proposed a particular idea. We've all been in meetings where a leader will go ahead and say, hey, here's a good idea, here's an initiative, somebody take ownership of this. So the first step is somebody has to take that ownership. They have to move forward. They have to move forward with the idea. But when they move forward, they have to move through people. And in order to move through people, you have to have those connections, those relationships. And so what we talk about is that influence orientation is the independent variable, but it has to be mediated by the relationships that that independent driver has to the potential outcomes. And so those relationships become a mediating factor. In addition, we have two moderating variables. What do you bring to the table in terms of your own self-awareness, and what is your ability to consider the perspective of others? And so this self-awareness and this consideration of others becomes moderators. And to the degree that you have accurate self-awareness and you're valuing and understanding the needs of others, then that's going to potentially raise the likelihood of a successful outcome. But if you go in unaware, or if you are unable to understand the perspective of others, then that's going to reduce the likelihood of a potential successful outcome. So what we're talking about is this moderated, mediated model in which influence is mediated by connection, and that relationship is then moderated by self-awareness and consideration of others. Let me give you a potential example. At our university, we're in the midst of what's called a quarter to semester conversion. And so we are going from a quarter system to a semester system. And so part of that is there has to be action. That's the influence orientation that's going to be the initial driver. So who are the faculty, staff, students, and administrators who are going to step up for leadership roles? And are the individuals who step up, are they actually able to get other people to come with them? And that's the initial independent variable. Then the question is, because all change is basically relationship oriented, what's the relationship of those leaders to the different people that are going to be impacted, the stakeholders, to get us to our ultimate outcome, which is a semester system? And to the degree that we have comfortable, easy, positive, intimate, trusting relationships is the degree to which we can move through this process of change much easier than would happen if we don't have those relationships. In addition, it's important in the moderating variables to understand when you're involved in a change initiative, how do you feel about this? What are your aptitudes and strengths to get this to happen? What are your potential internal resistors? How are you feeling? What are the triggers? What are the risk factors? So you have to know what you're bringing to the table. In addition, for consideration, you've got to be able to understand everybody else. Whenever there's a major change like this, when we're going to a quarter or to a semester system, there's going to be some winners and losers. And so what happens when departments lose students or lose faculty or lose funding and other departments gain? So being sensitive to yourself and others will allow you to be able to initiate these kinds of change initiatives. And so that's our underlying model. We look at personal interpersonal capacity as both a diagnostic tool, because it can help you understand where there's potential failure, but also as a developmental tool that you can look at your organizations and go, all right, where's the breakdown here? Is it the influence? Is it the relationships? Is it consideration? Or is it our own awareness that really needs to be developed? And so we feel that this model is particularly useful for the conference theme this year of really being able to empower change within organizations. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. Have a wonderful conference and a wonderful afternoon. Take care.